What's up guys, it's Blue here from Blue Bears Games, and today's video will be my upgrade guide for the Sliver Swarm Commander Precon from the Commander Master set that was released in August of 2023. Before I get to today's video, I want to first take a moment to let you know that if you'd like to help support my channel, you can do so in the following ways. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share any of my content on your socials so other people can discover it, and or watch some of my many other videos yourself. In addition to that, if you're interested in ways that you can help support my channel monetarily, please read the description of this video, and there you will find a myriad of options for what you can do to help me keep this channel going. Anything that you can do to help is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. As is always the case when I do these guides, I will show you some suggestions on what I would add to make this deck play better, but I will also show you what cards I would remove as well. This guide will be slightly different than the other guides I've done recently though, and that's for two reasons. First reason is this is a 5-color deck, and the biggest issue 5-color WotC precons have is the land base always needs fixing, and how you go about doing that will make your budget vary wildly. The second reason is that the theme is centered around slivers, and just like lands, the slivers that you may want to include could vary wildly in price as well. So, because of this, I will show you what I would remove as normal, but the cards I will recommend adding might not match the same number of cards I'd recommend removing. Instead, what I'll be doing is giving you a sorta updated mana fixing land upgrade guide to help fix the land base of 5-color decks with different budgets in mind, and then for the non-land cards in this deck, I will show you a more budget-friendly way that you can upgrade the deck. I'll start by talking about the commander spot. Out of the box, we get Sliver Gravemother to helm the deck. The Gravemother is a passable option, but there are 5 other options for this spot that you could use, and of those 5, one was included in the box. The other 4 are more expensive and arguably much better options. The other 4 that you can choose from are Sliver Legion, Sliver Overlord, Sliver Queen, and the First Sliver. Arguments could be made as to which one is the best, but the biggest thing to consider here is your wallet. The Queen is a reserve list card that could cost you hundreds, while the other 3 were made available in different secret lair drops over the years, so if you were lucky enough to grab them, one of them could be an easy choice to swap in for you. I myself was not smart enough to hold on to the Queen when I had it, and unfortunately I was not able to grab any of the secret lairs that had the others when they were available, so for this guide I will assume the same is true for you and keep the Gravemother as the commander. I will not recommend adding any of the 4 cards that I just mentioned to the 99, but if you do happen to have any of them, I would absolutely add one. To make room for them though, you can take what I'm about to tell you to swap in and evaluate for yourself which ones you would prefer to leave out. Now, before I go into the actual guide for this deck, let's talk about fixing a 5-color mana base. Like I said, you can go about it in any way that fits your budget, so I'll show you what your options are. I'll start by showing you the expensive stuff. These will be the optimal way to go about it, but cost way more than I would be willing to pay, but some of you have it like that, so here goes. You can start by using the OG dual lands, which I'm pretty sure most people know about by now. Pair them with shock lands, which are WotC's way of replacing the OG duals, and then pair both of those with the fetch lands, and you'll have access to just about any color you need. The price for that would be pretty steep, but if you don't care about condition, you could shave hundreds off that price, so there's that. To save you some money, you could pass on the OG dual lands, keep the shock and fetch lands, and add some of the more optimal budget options like the original check lands that used to be in core sets, or the new Innistrad check lands. They don't have basic land types, so they aren't fetchable, but they do have the ability to enter play untapped, which is mostly what you're looking for. If you're not a fan of the check lands like I am, other options for dual lands that can enter play untapped are the Pathways, the Bond lands, the filter lands from Double Masters, the Pain lands, and if you're really desperate, there's a set of lands dubbed the Hand lands. After those, I believe every other type of dual land comes into play tapped, so if you want or even have to use any of them, it will basically be based on both availability and your budget. The other thing I want to mention is if you want to use tri-lands, you absolutely would change out what came in the box to triomes for a multitude of reasons. Unfortunately, they do come into play tapped no matter what, but they do have basic land types, so they're fetchable, and if for some reason you don't need to play one, you can always cycle it away to draw a card. Most likely you won't do that, but as I always say, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Now, it is possible that I may have missed something, so if you have anything to add, please do so in the comments, but I think I covered just about everything. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get to the normal way that I do these guides, starting with what I'd remove to make room for some better options. I would remove the following: 1 Forest, Exotic Orchard, Ash Barrens, Pillar of Origins, Hollowhead Sliver, Blade Sliver, Cleaving Sliver, Bone Splitter Sliver, Might Sliver, Megantic Sliver, Decimate, and Descendant's Fury. In total, that's 12 cards that I would suggest removing. Now, before you roast me for taking out a bunch of the Anthem-type slivers, just wait a little bit. I'm going to replace them shortly, but also, I believe that with slivers, you don't really need that many, or you're going into a wins more scenario, and there are other slivers with some really cool utilitarian abilities that you can use instead. One of the biggest issues that you run into with this creature type is running out of space because of just how many good ones there are, so it was a struggle to make as much room as I did. So now we have to replace those 12 cards, and with such limited space, every card had to be as impactful yet budget conscious as possible, so let me show you what I believe would be the best 12. If you decide not to do too much to the land base due to budgetary reasons, you should at least add the following 3 cards. First, the World Tree. This will take place of the 1 Forest and give you the capability of having all of your lands tap for mana of any color, helping you smooth out your mana base. The last ability of the World Tree is irrelevant for what you're going for in this deck though. Or is it? The second card is called Sliver Hive. To start, it's actually a land that enters play untapped. Then, it can tap for any color that can be used to cast a Sliver spell, which, newsflash, is most of the deck. And finally, it can create Sliver tokens for you, which is never a bad thing. And the third card that I'd add to help smooth out your mana base is Chromatic Lantern. Again, it allows your lands to tap for any color, so I consider this a must-have for this and any 5-color deck. Next, I'll show you the 6 creatures that I'd recommend adding, and surprise, they're all slivers. First up is Muscle Sliver. I told you I would be adding Anthem slivers back in, plus it is a list card now, so there are actual recent printings. When it comes to Anthem-type creatures, my preference is to give the stat boost to both power and toughness, but that's just me. You may not care about that, so it's your choice if you want to add this or just keep the Blade Sliver in. The same goes for my second recommendation of Predatory Sliver. The only difference between this and Muscle Sliver are the words "you control," meaning that this is only a buff for your slivers, while Muscle Sliver will buff everyone's. The third sliver that I'll suggest adding is called Leeching Sliver. The whole point to this theme is turning dudes sideways, so why not get some extra life off of your opponents for doing so? The fourth sliver is called Homing Sliver. What's better than a couple of tutors in your deck? Why, making all of your slivers a tutor, of course. Being able to go get the right sliver for the right situation is just bonkers. Sliver number 5 on this list is called Opaline Sliver. Anytime that you can punish people for trying to target your stuff, you absolutely take that opportunity, especially if the punishment is to let you draw more cards. And the 6th and final sliver that I'll suggest adding is called Thorncaster Sliver. This one has similar abilities to the Leeching Sliver, except it deals damage instead of draining life, and the bonus is that you can target creatures now, which could be very handy in helping you clear the road of opposing blockers. Now the last 3 cards that I'll recommend adding are all enchantments that help aid in keeping your hand full of cards. The first card is an enchantment called Descendant's Path, which can either put a sliver in play for you for free, or put a card into your hand. Both options are quite useful for this and most themes that are creature-based. The second enchantment is a card called Guardian Project. You've heard me say it numerous times before, but I'll say it again. This is absolutely my favorite card for a creature-based commander deck in the game. It's pretty much tailored for the format, and I'm not sure there will ever be a card that will take its spot for me. And the final card that I'll recommend adding to the deck is a card called Elven Chorus. This card will help smooth out your mana base and allow you to cast creatures from the top of your library, which are both extremely helpful abilities for this deck. The last thing that I want to talk about is a combo that was purely a coincidence. The deck already had a card called Rucka Rumel in the box. Then I recommended adding a card called the World Tree to the deck to help smooth out your mana base, but together, these two actually create a pretty devastating interaction. It's not an infinite combo, mind you, but the end result can be game-ending. Simply choose God as the additional creature type, and you can sack the World Tree to go get every creature in your deck and put them directly into play. Remember, there are slivers that give all of your slivers haste, so you can attack with them all the same turn they come into play. This is assuming that the haste sliver is not already in your graveyard when you do this, though. This truly was a happy accident, and I'm glad I noticed it because I couldn't find room to add a combo to the deck as it was. Realize that in a 5-color deck, every combo in the game is possible, so if you don't like this one, I'm sure you can find one that you like with a simple search. I personally like this one because it was just a nice happy coincidence. And there you have it, folks, my upgrade guide for the Commander Master's Sliver Swarm Commander Precon. While everything that I just suggested might not make this precon a top-tier deck, it will make it better overall and more fun to play. Slivers notoriously are one of the most popular creature types in the game, and technically you could just squeeze a bunch of different ones into a commander deck with even the weakest 5-color sliver and it would still be decent and fun to play. Outside of that horrendous land base, this is one of the better precons in recent history, and is a great one to get even if you just plan to use it as a base for your own build with a different sliver commander. Unlike the Eldrazi Unbound deck, this one truly does live up to its name. Well, folks, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and if you're looking for more stuff to watch, please browse my playlists, as I'm sure you'll find a lot more of my videos that you'll like. Also, don't forget to check back next Friday for new content. I'm not sure what it will be just yet, but I'm sure it will be entertaining. Have a nice day.